Welcome to Ellefluential. I'm Elle Salagaris, and welcome to the podcast where we go behind the scenes of life, relationships, beauty, and everything in between. Join me as we get a little bit bougie, talk with people I can't wait for you to meet, and share some fun and laughs together. Coming up on this episode, so I had to go to a physio, and she's kind of like checking me over, and she's like, wow, like that is so crazy. She's like, have you fallen recently? I could not admit to her that that was what happened. So I literally just sat there and was like, no. And she's like, oh, that's so weird because you've cracked a rib. Let's jump into it. Hi guys, and welcome to another solo episode of Ellefluential. I'm so excited. I've got a lot of fun updates. The first update I have is, I don't know if you've seen my nose filler story that I told on my previous episode, one of my previous episodes that I did with my friend Katerina, and I told the story about how I got nose filler and my nose filler doctor, and I've got an update on that because obviously he had alleged patient deaths and he lost his license. Apparently he's going to start practicing potentially again. I had a follower reach out to me after listening to the episode, and she was like, oh my God, Elle, I have goss for you. She literally messaged me and she was like, mate. And you know when it starts with that it's going to be good. So he was apparently like dating her boyfriend's sister or something like that. She spent a lot of time with him and she knows everything. And so there were all of those allegations that he was obviously doing coke, and like he was submitting false documentation for that and everything. And apparently he 100% was doing all of his surgeries, allegedly doing all of his surgeries really high. And that's why he was doing so many. And it's how he got. And also I think that's why he was so Mr. Riz. And apparently it's not a surprise anymore, but she knows for a fact, allegedly, that he was finally caught performing under the influence a few times, and that was when he started getting investigated. And this was at least 5 years ago. And apparently if you could like look around his house, you would just find, allegedly, you would just find bags like floating around his house. So it was just like a little treasure hunt. If you were at any of his parties. And also apparently he was a serial cheater, allegedly. Was he married? I didn't even know he was married, but apparently he was married, a serial all of those plastic surgeons really do. Like there's a lot of them. I mean, they all cheat on their wives. I mean, none of us are surprised about that. But apparently he lived in a penthouse in Bondi, and then when all this went, oh my God. Oh, he's moved out and he's in hiding now. But she said that he used to do her filler as well, and he is incredibly talented. And then she sent me the article, surgeon to practice again despite past deaths and drugs. 3 days ago, because I just spoke about this. Guys, I'm really trendy, guys. NSAT reinstated bleep names license to practice medicine in March 2024 despite opposition from the Healthcare Complaints Commission. A surgeon who had 2 patients die and was caught by police buying blow in the middle of a Sydney street will be allowed to practice medicine again. Guys, should I have him do my nose filler again? I won't say his name, but he has worked as an ear, nose and throat surgeon until April 2002 when his registration was cancelled due to findings of serious professional misconduct. In February 2018, after operating on a 24-year-old patient to fix a snoring issue, he spotted some bleeding but thought he had repaired the arteries. 2 days later, the man underwent an emergency operation because of a recurrent hemorrhage, suffered a heart attack and died. In November 2017, when attempting to unblock the sinuses of a 41-year-old man, he became disorientated and penetrated the bone below the patient's brain. This disrupted an artery and caused bleeding into the frontal lobe before that, and the patient also died. It's not funny. But this guy, they're going to let him go again. In April 2022, the New South Wales Civil and Administrative Tribunal found him conducted the operations in an inappropriately short amount of time, including acting with reckless haste for the 41-year-old. He also entered into an inappropriate 2-year relationship with a vulnerable 27-year-old patient diagnosed with anorexia bulimia. From October 2013, he sent her thousands of messages, went out for dinner with her on one occasion, and prescribed her weight loss medication despite knowing she had an eating disorder. There are no findings that he had sexual relations with the patient. He told the tribunal in 2021 he and the woman engaged in mutual flirtation. NCAT disqualified him as a medical practitioner for 1 year. 6 months after he was stripped of his registration, police arrested him after spotting him getting into a car in Bondi Beach, only to get out again a short distance down the road. Suspecting a drug deal, the officer ran after the former surgeon who threw a bag of blow on the roadside. He pleaded guilty to 1 charge of possessing and prohibiting drug in December, blah, blah, sentenced without conviction to a 12-month conditional release order. And then they are reinstating his license to practice medicine in March 2024. This is quite the update. Guys, if you haven't seen my other episode, you have to go watch it because I talk all about it. And it's like, but I just wanted to give everyone a little update on the Mr. Riz situation. And that is the update. So we'll see if any more updates happen with Mr. Riz himself. But that's it for now. Oh my God. And it's not funny. Okay, I want to talk about, because I got to sit in on a reality show recently. I'm in my reality show era. I also got invited. I was so close to getting to go on Below Deck this month, and then I missed out because there was 1 spot left and now it's taken. Below Deck is one of my favorite shows. I'm obsessed with it. I love Below Deck, and I sat in on another reality show recently, and I don't think that I'm allowed to talk about it, but you might see me in the background of a reality show coming up. I think we can probably guess what we think it is. But I actually casted for a reality show that's about to come out because they've just started advertising it. Has anyone heard of Made in Bondi? I was a really big fan of Made in Chelsea, loved that show, always loved it. And so when they reached out to me on Instagram to cast, and I was like, absolutely. And my husband was like, you are not doing this. You're not going on reality TV. He really doesn't want me to do it. I casted for it anyways, obviously, and just went fully manic during the casting, just gave them everything that I've gotten. I also had a friend recently cast for Farmer Wants a Wife. So we're in our reality show era, and they asked me all of these questions, because Sydney is very, very small. So if you're in the scene in Sydney, you know everybody. Sydney is very small, incestual. It's you go out to events, parties, everyone knows everyone. So they kind of just rattled off a list of all of these people, and I literally knew everyone, had stories about everything, just went fully. But they wanted me to show my kids and my husband. My husband is not a public figure, guys. He does not want to do social media. He would be horrible. I'm like, guys, you don't want him. Trust me. He would literally just stand there and be like, I had to teach him how to smile on camera. Okay. It took years to teach this man how to smile on camera. He's not going to come on a reality show as a main character. I told them that I would be willing to kind of come on as a little side guest or something. I would still do that. But I had a friend who went on. I don't even know if I'm allowed to tell this story, but I'm going to tell it anyways. I had a friend who went on and fully signed up for it. And they were filming a beach scene at 7:30 in the morning. They had champagne glasses of water, and they ended up crying on set and quit that day. So they're not on the show. And everyone that was originally going to be on the show when I was casting for it, none of them are on it. I have no idea who the cast is, but I'm excited to watch it, and I'm going to screen it at my house. But I actually am also very glad that I decided not to do it. But I can see myself one day doing a reality show. I think I want to have my own one. So if any networks want to pick up and give me my own show, I'm here. I'm ready. You guys, so you know that you may not know this, but I'm a really big Oscar Piastri fan. I randomly became an Oscar Piastri fan at the Melbourne F1. I think I was just trying to pick a favorite driver, and I was watching Drive to Survive, got really into F1, and Oscar Piastri was just my number one favorite driver. And so I've got all of the merch, and I went to the Melbourne F1 and literally was wearing full Piastri merch. I've got photos on my Instagram, absolutely obsessed with him. He just won his first F1. I know that Norris had to let him kind of go ahead because they were I don't really know all the ins and outs or whatever, but it still counts, and he still won. And good for you, Oscar Piastri. I fucking love you. And it just reminded me of a story that I had about when I was in Melbourne for the F1. I actually have a lot of stories about when I was in Melbourne for the F1. It was quite an eventful weekend. And I think Isabella, if you haven't seen Isabella and I's episode, I think we tell a story about how she met her current boyfriend that weekend. I had a couple little side quests and things that I was doing. It was such a big weekend that I actually ended up getting vertigo. I don't know if anyone has ever had vertigo before in their entire life. This has maybe been one of the most traumatizing things to ever happened to me. Like I had full-blown horrific vertigo, something about drinking. So we were in the Red Bull tent. Nobody ever go in the Red Bull tent. I'm so sorry. They literally serve every single cocktail is served with Red Bull. You just go in and there is Red Bull everywhere. No one should be drinking that amount of Red Bull. Like I am not someone who ever drinks Red Bull in my day-to-day life. I probably had about 15 Red Bull cocktails just on the Saturday. And then there was also the Sunday. I remember we came, like they had a list of the cocktails and like every single cocktail had Red Bull. I was just in party F1 mode. I wasn't even thinking about it. I was like, fuck yeah, keep getting me more, another vodka, another Red Bull cocktail, another. And they just bring out trays and trays and trays of them. Me and my husband and his friends come out and we run into our other friends and we literally come out and we're just like talking like a million miles. We're like, how are you guys going? What are you doing? Oh my God, we're doing, how good was that? Was that amazing? Oh my God, we had that. It's like, there's this TikTok of this dog and he's like, have you ever had a Red Bull? I've had a Red Bull. I love Red Bull. We literally came out flying. We were flying out of the Red Bull tent and they were just looking at us and they were like, are you guys okay? And we were just like, yeah, we're fine. We feel amazing. Oh, where are we going next? What are we doing? It literally looked like we were on drugs. We go back on the Sunday, have way more Red Bull. I don't sleep. Went through the next day, got on the plane. It's a really short flight. It's like from Melbourne, isn't it? Like it's like 45 minutes, like an hour. It's really short. And I get home and I'm like, I have to look after my kids all day. I go to bed. I wake up in the morning on Tuesday. So I have to wake up to the baby. I get up out of bed and I cannot see. It's like I get up and the whole room is spinning around in like massive circles and I get up and I'm like trying to walk around and I'm like can't find my footing. It's like, I don't know if anyone's been crossfaded before, but it kind of, or when you just get the really bad spins, like if you've had way too much to drink or something like that, it gives that where like the whole room is spinning. I'm like clawing at the walls, trying to make it. I'm trying to get into the baby. My 5-year-old luckily can like get the baby out of the crib. I'm like on the phone. Like my husband is in China because he went straight from Melbourne F1 to China. And I think he's like still on the plane. I can't get a hold of him. I'm like trying to call a family member. I'm calling an ambulance. The ambulance shows up. I'm like laying there. My kids are all there just like fending for themselves. Luckily, my 5-year-old is kind of at that age where like she was like changing the baby's nappy, getting her a bottle. And then I'm like laying there. I can't move. And the ambulance, the guy is in like ahead of me and I can like just see his face and his whole head is just going in massive circles. And I had vertigo for weeks, but I had it so bad I had to go. My aunt finally showed up to look after the kids so that I could go to the hospital. And I spent the entire day in hospital, like in the fetal position on my left side with my eyes shut for 24 hours. Like I couldn't look at my phone. I couldn't even open my eyes. And they kept coming in and trying to do like all of these weird like physio exercises and stuff. Honestly, the most traumatizing thing to ever have. I was in hospital for like 2 days. Even when I left, like I could not walk straight for like a week. And then I just thought I was going to have vertigo for the rest of my life. And I think I ended up getting I got a chiropractor. I got all this stuff. They put you on like a ton of meds. And now it took weeks for it to fully go away, but I have not touched Red Bull since. And this is a lesson to everyone. Don't drink that much Red Bull. Like what was wrong with me? Like when I add up how many I had, and I was talking to my personal trainer about it because I don't weigh very much. And like compared to like what my caffeine tolerance is, it was way too much caffeine. I actually only just recently started drinking coffee again. Like it completely put me off coffee. Like I fully switched. You know that I'm a matcha queen anyways, but I fully stopped drinking coffee and I only had to start drinking coffee again because my nanny left me. So my nanny went back to the Philippines and then she never came back. My technique when I don't have a nanny is that I have a coffee in the morning and then throughout the day, every single time that that I want to sit down, I have a shot of espresso. And that is the only way that you get through the day, okay? So if anyone needs any advice on that, every time you want to sit down, have a shot of espresso, but don't drink Red Bull. Guys, I am being the most annoying person ever. I will not shut up about Leo season. Everything I say, I did a full Leo season episode. I've just had Greta on the podcast again, guys, and we talked more about Leo season again. But my birthday is coming up and I will be turning 29. And for some reason, I cannot accept the fact that I just hate the number 29. So I've decided that I'm going to be 28 for another year, and I just need everyone to be on board with that, okay? So I'm going to be 28, and then next year I will turn 30, but I will not be turning 29. There's like certain numbers that are ugly. Like, does anyone else feel like this? Like, there's like certain like ages that are cute and there's certain ages that aren't cute. 28 I feel like is cute. 29 is not cute. 30 is cute. 31, yeah. Is it the fact that it's odd numbers? But I do think 25 is a cute age. 24 is cute. So I just want to do a little PSA to everyone that I will be 28 for another year. And I think I'm going to put it on the cake as well. I wanted to tell a story that I've been wanting to tell this for a while, but I was just trying to maybe spare the girl. The girl and I are no longer friends. But at my birthday, I think I touched on this maybe a little bit, but I can't remember. But I'm just going to tell the full-blown story now. So get ready. So at my birthday, and it's very much giving, and you did it at my birthday dinner. And I've made that joke so many times on this podcast that like we could put a compilation of me saying that. But at my birthday dinner, I had just become friends with this group of girls, that like I fell out with, and you can definitely find out probably who it is, and I honestly don't care if you do. 2 years ago at my birthday dinner, when we were barely friends, we had met in like May and my birthday was August. Not many of my friends dare hit on my husband, especially not when I'm in the vicinity. I've only had maybe one other girl who has done it to where she's like been a little bit flirty, been a little bit too eye contacty, like in front of me. And I clocked that right away. And like, I definitely like from when that moment I've been holding her out here. And I think she's kind of noticed that I've been holding her out here because I clocked that girly, babe. Like I can tell when you're giving my husband eyes and you're like only asking him questions and stuff. This is worse. It's worse. At my birthday dinner, guys, and I really dress up for my birthday dinner. I was wearing this tiny little House of CB dress, and I didn't choose the bigger cup size. So like my boobs were literally up to my chin. I had like full blot hair, makeup, everything running around. She was crying down in, so our house has like 3 levels, and in the lower level, there's like storage rooms, the laundry, and there's like our wine cellar where we keep all the alcohol. So my husband went down to get more alcohol for the party, and she was crying in one of the storage rooms, and he found her sitting on the floor in there crying, and he's like, are you okay? And she's like, oh my God, I just found out that I had COVID, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't know what to do. This was when like COVID, this was like 2 years ago. So this was when COVID was really rampant. And so he went and he sat, because in my storage room, there's suitcases, right? So he went and he sat on the edge of a suitcase. And you guys know how men sit. They sit with their legs spread wide open. So he's sitting there and he's perched on the suitcase. And he's like, oh, well, I guess, like, you know, you're already here, whatever, like, you may as well stay, like, who cares, blah, blah, blah. And then she looks up at him as he's sitting like that, and she goes, and she leans back, and she goes, why are you sitting like that? That's really suggestive. I'm sorry, you slut. Are you kidding? That was supposed to be one of my, like, good friends who was, like, in the friend group. And then, like, I never liked her after that. And that was the one that, like, we had this huge, like, blow up. And I ended up, like, going off and, like, really attacking. Like, she just did many, many things. And I never even told her that. And I almost want someone to send this to her to be like, because my husband, obviously, he's, like, the most loyal man that exists. He ran straight to me when he said he just immediately got up and ran away. And he came to me and he told me straight away. And I never even brought it up with her because honestly, it was that embarrassing. Because can I just say, and this is going to be mean of me, but I'm allowed to be mean because you hit on my husband at my birthday. But out of all of my most gorgeous, model, like beautiful friends, she is the last one I would have expected to have a crack. Like, she would have had by far the least chance out of any of them. Like, the balls on that girl, it's like, it was almost just like, it was like it was embarrassing. So I never even brought it up. I never even brought it up with her, but I'm bringing it up now. Yeah. So we ended up like that. It really contributed to like I think from that, I just held her out at arm's length. And I remember like her bringing up to like a couple other girls in the group, just being like, because I started getting closer to each of them individually. You know how like sometimes if you join a group and then you start hanging out one-on-one with the other girls. So I started hanging out one-on-one more and like getting closer to some of the other girls. And I remember her kind of bringing up like, oh, like, I don't know why like Elle and I aren't hanging out. Like I want to like get closer to Elle. And like, you know, I'm like kind of jealous that like you guys are like spending more time and you guys are forming these one-on-one relationships. Yeah, because you hit on my husband. And then you did several other things after that. And you're just a mean girl. And so like I literally like I clock that with girls like kind of early on. And then like, yeah, I hold you out here. I have some self-awareness as well. My God. Yeah. And then I ended up, but what's wrong with that, and I'm trying not to do this anymore, is that I will just kind of let it build up and build up and build up. And then I will just go absolutely lunatically crazy at you. So I'm trying to grow, and I'm trying not to do that anymore. And then she comes out and she's like, why did Elle attack me? What do you mean? You deserved it. Okay. I think I want to get into a little segment about like girls supporting girls. So I'm a big, and this is one thing about girls that really surprises me. I feel like we're coming into this era where girls really support girls, and we want to support women, and we want to support all the decisions and feminism and supporting women who want to stay home, supporting women who want to work. And somehow we're still getting into this really judgy. This happened with like, I don't know if anyone saw like the Tana Mojo and like Alyssa Violet drama and everything. And like Alyssa kind of coming on and saying that Tana was being really shaming and being judgy and stuff like that. And then she shamed her for having an OnlyFans. And I've also had some things with friends where I'm having friends getting accused of being escorts, and that kind of being used as an insult. And I'm really confused as to why, as women, we're allowing men to pit us against each other and using that kind of thing as an escort, and why we're being so judgy with it. And I've never escorted. I'm not an escort. Would I be friends with an escort? 100%. Would I judge a girl for being an escort? Absolutely not. And I think it's a good thing that in Australia, it's a regulated industry and it's legal, and it's something that there's more safety around it. There should be safety around it. At the end of the day, it's a service that exists because of men. So why are we out here judging women for this and putting it all on women and insulting women because of it? Like, they're doing it for men. Good for them if they want to own their bodies. And what gets me the most is it's like these women who are putting these like nasty comments and saying this, babe, you're out there doing it for free, and you're doing it for free for not even like a fillet of fish from McDonald's. Like literally like one girl who was like apparently crying, who was like being really mean to one of my friends and calling her an escort, was crying to our other friend that she couldn't even get a man to buy her a fillet of fish from McDonald's. So what if someone's getting paid $5,000 for one night and that's their job, babe? You're out there doing it for free, okay? From some loser who lives down the street at the arse end of Bondi in a tiny little studio. Like, come on. Can we be a little bit nicer to each other? And let's not judge what others do for work, okay? And I really want to get over this rhetoric that you're not valuing yourself and everything. You are actually, like, you're putting a value on yourself. People ask me all the time how to spice up your relationship. One really amazing way to spice up your relationship, if we want to get into a little bit steamy and a little bit everything, I get a lot of questions about that and about threesomes. The best way to go about that and to get into that, especially as a couple or as a married couple, is to bring in an escort. Trust me, you do not want to be going out trying to just, if you want to get into threesomes and that's something that you're interested in delving into and exploring with your partner, don't go pick some random chick up off the street, okay? That's probably like the worst thing that you can do. What's wrong with bringing in a professional? And also, it's like these girls are professionals and there's nothing wrong with that. And I don't know why we're pretending that it's such a bad thing. And also, even with men, sometimes if they're just going for that professional service, it's a professional little hands clean service. I'm sorry, if my man was going to cheat, I would rather him cheat on me with an escort. And I say this all the time, but if he goes and just picks up a random girl at a bar and it's emotional and they're connecting and they're vibing. It's the same thing like with strip clubs, how like men go in and like, you know, they're so, oh my God, they go in and they just think that like these women are actually in love with them and they're into them. And babe, they're working. They're doing a job. They're not into you. It's the same thing with escorts, like going and like, my best friend Liam used to live across the street from a brothel. Like I've seen it all. I've got girls that I know who book them, who do everything. I've met these girls. They're lovely girls. You know what I mean? Like stop trying to be nasty, and especially calling girls who aren't escorts and trying to make it an insult. Can we just all collectively agree to stop doing that? Because that is not girls supporting girls. And if it's something that you feel so strongly about, no one's forcing you to do it, okay? And where do we draw the line on what you think your morals and your moral high ground, and standing on such a high horse and being like, oh my God, like, oh, never, like, that's disgusting. Like, I don't know, babe, I've seen you do some pretty questionable things. I'm sure people have seen you do some pretty questionable things. So where do you get off on being on such a high horse, looking down on girls? And I think it also comes a lot of the time from a place of jealousy. A lot of these times, these girls live like they seem to be living outwardly really nice lifestyles. And so girls get jealous because like, oh, they've got really nice things. They've got tons of designer bags. You see a girl who's got like a really nice closet with lots of designer bags, lots of designer shoes, everything. And you're like, oh, she's probably just an escort. Okay. Like, even if she was, like, mind your business. Why do you care? Just because she does that doesn't mean that you do. And especially in this OnlyFans era, I think OnlyFans is a good thing because the porn industry is disgusting. And we've seen all those girls come out of that industry and talk about how much they were abused, taken advantage of, how like they never even really saw any of that money. And then we have a platform now that allows girls to take control of that and to like work for themselves and to actually be able to properly profit off of that. They don't have to work with other people if they don't want to. They can do solo content. Like a lot of escorting isn't just sleeping with people. There's like all different levels to it. Also, a lot of the time people are confusing escorts for just girls who date rich men. And so just because you think a girl has nice things and you're so concerned about where she's getting her money from, she might have just had rich boyfriends, guys. Like a lot of my friends are like that as well. Like they just have men who have money and they spoil them and they know how to get that. I'm getting hundreds of questions on how to find a provider man. How do I find someone who will provide for me? How do I be that? How do I like attract that? How do I like get someone who will want to buy those things from me? And at the same time, if you're turning around and you're being hateful, that's the energy that you're putting out, and that's the energy that you're going to get back. So if you want to higher up your standards and you want nice things and you want to find a provider man and you want that, you need to put that energy out there. And you also need to stop putting other women down for having that. If I bring friends on and you think that they have nice things or anything and you want to know where their money comes from, like, where does your money come from? Like, why are we so, let's just be girls who support girls, okay? That is actually being a girl's girl. Being a girl's girl is supporting girls' decisions, even if it's different decisions to what you would make. And that is one thing that I've preached before, and I will keep preaching it, and it does apply to sex workers. And I stand with sex workers. To bring it back to something funny. So I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about strip clubs because I love a strip club and I love going with my husband, and I think it's really, really fun. Also, I think it helps if my best advice, like coming back to the threesome thing as well, is to say that you kind of do have to be into girls to enjoy it. I think never go in and go to the strip club with your man or have a threesome and book an escort with your man if you're not interested in girls, because you're probably not going to enjoy yourself. If you'll go in and you're like 100% straight and you're not into girls and you don't want to hook up with the girl, don't do it. And if your man is pressuring you into doing that, he's not the one, and that's a red flag. And so it shouldn't be something that he's pressuring you into doing. It should be something that you genuinely want to do and you both want to explore together, and it should feel like teamwork, and it needs to be something that you're into as well and that you want to explore. Otherwise, like you're not going to have fun. You're not going to enjoy yourself. Even going to the strip club, I don't think you necessarily like need to be bisexual to enjoy going to a strip club, but it has to be something that you want to do. I love a strip club personally, and I always end up following the girls on Instagram. We always just stay in touch and end up being friends. That's where I went really wrong, and why I say if you're going to have a threesome, book a girl, because I've had a threesome before and then the girl and I ended up becoming best friends. And it's a recipe for disaster, guys. Learn from my mistakes and do not do that. When I had my hens party, we went to a male strip club, and this was a male strip club that was in the King's Cross. And by the time we got to the strip club, that was kind of like the last venue of the night. So I think we started out at, I can't even remember, we started at a random bar. This was back when I was still doing fireball shots. Oh, because I was a child bride, as I have said so many times. I got married when I was like 24. So I might have even been 23 at my hens. I was in my fireball shot era, and I have not touched a fireball shot in probably 5 years, actually, because I'm coming up on my 5-year wedding anniversary. I don't think I've touched one since. Way too many fireball shots, way too many espresso martinis, venue to venue. We finally end up at this male strip club and they pull me up on stage, and it's this whole thing. I am so belligerent that I actually won't stop running up on stage, and I had to be basically chained to my seat. And I remember the guy, like the manager, coming up being like, if she moves from her seat one more time, we are kicking you guys out. And then we got to like pick one of the guys my friend had organized to like take him into a private room. So you like grab one of the male strippers and you like take them back into a private room. I was getting in trouble for just being really belligerently drunk. And the man who was like I think he was the owner of the place, came in and was like, kind of, his wife was with him, and she started like really telling me off. And this was when I was really back in my very like aggressive, angry, aggressive era, where I wasn't afraid to like get into a physical fight like a lunatic. I'm not like this anymore. But I started like charging at her from across the room, and my best friend saw it at the time, and she charged at me from across the room and tackled me, and she broke one of my ribs. And I didn't even realize that she broke a rib, obviously, because I was so belligerently drunk. And I remember for like days afterwards just being like, fuck, I'm in a lot of pain. Like something is wrong. Like I can't like I think I was like trying to like do yoga. I was trying to like, something was going on where I was like, oh God, I think maybe like has something happened? Have I cracked a rib? So I had to go to a physio and sit there, and I didn't want to admit to her how it happened. So I remember I'm sitting there and I have my baby as well, because when I got married, I already had a baby. She was like, I think she was 15 months old when I got married. So she would have been like just after, she'd been like 13 months. So I have this little baby with me, and she's kind of like checking me over, and she's like, wow, like that is so crazy. She's like, have you fallen recently? Like, has something happened to you recently? And I'm in my head, and like, I could not admit to her that was what happened. And I just couldn't even think of an excuse. So I literally just sat there and was like, no, that's really weird. And she's like, oh, that's so weird because you've cracked a rib. And I'm like, she's like you can't think of anything that like might have happened. And I was just like, no, nothing at all. No, my best friend tackled me in a male strip club last weekend at my hens party. And she's cracked my rib. And there's also nothing that you can do when you crack a rib. You just have to let it heal. So yeah, watch out. So I think I feel safer in a female strip club than I do. Male strip clubs are a lawless place. So coming back to the Tana Mojo thing, because guys, I'm a really big Tana Mojo fan. I don't know if you've noticed. The whole Cody Ko thing, the Tana and Cody Ko thing, about how Tana slept with Cody when she was 17 and he was, I think, 25 or 26. And this came out, and it's something that, it's funny because she kind of had blamed herself at the time or didn't realize it was bad. And it's something that I obviously have an age gap relationship. My husband is 11 years older than me, and I met him when I was 21. And I also had a couple age gap relationships before that. So the first one I had when I first moved here, and I was 19 and he was 31 when we met, and then he very quickly turned 32. So we had like a pretty big gap. And then I think when I was 20, I dated a man who was 35. And it's something where I've got a friend now who is 18 and she's dating someone who's 26. And it's very difficult. I look back at photos and I just look at how young I was, and you don't realize when you're 18, 19, just how young you are. Like, you are a baby. And I think you only realize as you get older and you kind of become the age that you were of the man who was the older one in the relationship, when you kind of start to realize like how fucked up it was. So once you kind of hit, I think once it was 10, I was hitting that age. I think she's like 25 or 26 now, isn't she? And she hit that age of being his age and realized how bad it was. But I look back now at like 18-year-olds and like 19-year-olds, and they are babies. I even look like at 21-year-olds. Like when I was working in real estate, there was this young girl who was working there who I kind of made friends with, and she was 21. And I remember just thinking like, you are like such a baby to me. And I think like she came over one time, we were like having drinks before we were going out, and like my husband was there, and I was like, that is just so crazy to think that like that was the age that I was when we met. And it kind of like starts to get you thinking about, I'm not even the age that my husband was when he met me. Isn't that crazy? And we've been together for like 8 years. When I think about that, I feel like I've been kind of making fun of him. Like we've been getting into jokes about it, because obviously my husband and I have a very good relationship and we're very happy and it's worked out. And I think now that I'm 28 and I'm going to be 28 obviously for another year, and he's 40, I see less of an issue with that kind of age gap. I think once you hit 25 and like your frontal lobe develops, I think then you can kind of hit that, because I fully support a 10-year age gap. But I think you kind of have to get to the point where you're like 24, 25 before you should kind of enter those relationships where like there's a bit of an age gap. I think if you're under the age of 25, you should kind of date men like 30 or under. I don't think you should be going into the 30s, because there's just, you don't realize it, and you don't realize how bad it is until you get older. And there's almost no getting through to someone who's like 18, 19. But when I was 19 dating that man, he had no respect for me, and his friends didn't have any respect for me. And I remember always just feeling so disrespected and so like there was something wrong with me and like it was my fault. And I think back now and I'm like, it was you. Like, why was I made to feel like such this like silly little girl, when it's like, what were you, the grown man, doing dating the silly little girl? Why were you dating a 19-year-old? And I remember like when we first met out and he found out how old I was, and then he was like, oh, like you're too young for me. And then still like 2 days later, like asked me on a date, and we ended up dating for like a year. Like, it's just oh my God. And I think when you commit as well as an older man to dating someone younger, and this is something that I've had to go through in my relationship, having an 11-year age gap, is that I have still had to go through all of my 20s and go through and learn all of the life experience that he already knows. So when I met, you're kind of expected when you meet and you get into the relationship to be at their level. And we can sit here and we can say, oh, that like women are more mature than men. And like I had been through a lot, I think that had given me a lot of life experience in other ways. But there's nothing that can give you that life experience without actually going through it, of like actually going through your 20s. You can't just magically be in your 30s. So I think when you're 21 and dating an older man who's in his 30s and all of his friends are in their 30s, you're kind of expected to act that age and act at that life experience. And then you're not given as much grace for all of those mistakes that you then go and make, that everyone makes in their 20s. And especially having kids so young. I had kids really young. I got pregnant at 22. My husband has almost had to sit kind of back and let me make those mistakes and not have such high unrealistic expectations. And it's something that we've really worked on, and we went to counseling, and that was like a big subject in counseling. And I think if you're going to enter those age gap relationships, and especially as a man, you kind of have to be ready to sit back and let your partner grow and let them go through those mistakes and think about what you were like at that age. So a lot of the time, like my husband and I have to sit down and be like, okay, like what were you like when you were 28? And what were you doing? Like you weren't doing what I'm doing. And I have to go through this and make these mistakes. And I can't magically just be in my 30s and know all this stuff. And it's hard for them to kind of have grace for you and have to sit back and watch you do that. And also because they've already been through it, so they already know. And there's kind of like, it can get very condescending very quickly. So I would just say, as much as I support age gap relationships, I have kind of changed my stance on it a little bit to where I think if you're too young and you're kind of definitely at like 9 and even 17 and 26 with a Tanner and Cody thing is crazy. Because at 17, you are such a baby. And the whole thing about how like you magically turn 18 and then all of a sudden like boom. Like there was this story in Sydney, there was this girl who was dating this very big like in the scene guy who I think he's like in his 40s, and as soon as she turned 18, like she started an OnlyFans and they started dating. And you just see the predatoriness of that and like how bad it is. You don't just magically turn 18 and overnight you're an adult. And like the way that men kind of like circle around that and are such predators and are just like, oh, boom, like the second she's 18. And you are still, I look back at photos of myself and I literally look 12. Like I look so young. And like even when I was 21, I look back at the photos of like when I met my husband and like I looked 16. Like it's crazy. Like I looked like such a baby. Because I do get asked questions about this and about age gaps, relationships. And I think it's become something that's been so normalized. And I really do support a 10-year age gap because my husband jokes all the time that like he's married his second wife first. And I think it definitely like it keeps it fun. There's always just this stigma that men are going to leave you for a younger woman and blah, 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 blah. But I do think my stance around it has changed a little bit in that I think that you're 18, I would keep it like 22, 23, 24. Date young boys. Date young boys while you can. You have so much time to date 40-year-old men. Like, it's almost like I've been rewatching Sex and the City, and it's almost like you go from like you're 18, you want to date these old men, and then you get into like your 30s and stuff as a woman, and then you want to go back and date the young boys. Like, date the young boys while you can, have fun with it. And then once you kind of want to start, because I think women do want to start settling down before men do. So you kind of hit that like once you're like 24, 20. I find girls once they hit around 25 is when they really want to start looking for a serious relationship and they start dating to marry. I don't think men start dating to marry until they're more like 32, 33, 34 even. By the time they've hit 40, why are they still single? What's wrong with them? That's a little bit too far, girly. I would kind of stick to that kind of 10-year gap from like 25 to 35, 24 to 34 is okay, but don't let yourself get taken advantage of. Don't let yourself be preyed upon if you're at that kind of 18 to 21 as like big sister advice. Keep it under 30, okay? Because I promise you, when you get to my age, you will look back and you will be like, that was fucking creepy, okay? And that's all I have to say about that. And on that note, that is it for today's episode. I hope you all enjoyed listening. And if you made it this far, thank you so much. I love all of you and look out for the next episode of Ellefluential. Mwah! Thanks for joining me on this episode of Ellefluential. If you're enjoying the show, hit the follow for future episodes. Plus, you can find me on socials. I'm at Elle_Eastern Suburbs Mum on Instagram and TikTok, and I'm Elle Salagaris on YouTube. XOXO, Elle.